Hi and welcome back to our kitchen. What did you do when you found out you couldn't have gluten anymore? I panicked, you panicked, and what I did is I tripped through the chip aisle in the grocery store and read labels and said, I can have this, I can have this. But again, I was eating chips. So then I had to learn what is gluten-free and what's not. So go on your internet and print out a list of what is gluten-free and what is not, and study it, and educate yourself. Because the more you educate yourself, the more you're going to be able to go into the grocery store, read a label, and say, it's got wheat in it, it's got barley in it. Throw it back on the shelf. So today I'm going to show you a simple recipe that I was surprised that worked when I made it. But let's get into it. I'm going to cut up my peppers now. This is a casserole, which I call stuffed pepper casserole. So let's get into it now. I got my peppers here. Now the recipe calls for 2 green bell peppers, red bell peppers. I didn't have that. I had a poblano that this is like frozen in my freezer. I just get them, I throw them in there. Same with this. It started getting wrinkly. I threw it into the freezer just like it is. Now it's had time to just thaw out a little bit. And I like a serrated knife for this, especially the peppers because they have such a tough outer skin to them that I like to use a serrated knife. And I'm going to take the tops off. Now you see that they have the seeds and everything in there. I'm just going to reach in and tear that out. Now they still have some membranes in there, but I'm going to get rid of those when I cut the peppers. So I'm going to saw it in half, cut it in half. And there's the membranes and the seeds in there, which I'll just take the little knife and cut out. Now we don't have to worry about the membranes and the seeds for the sweet bell peppers, because that's what carries the heat in your other peppers, is the membranes and the seeds. Now I popped the top out of that pepper, and this is very good to cut up. And what I do is I kind of cut the bottom off of both sides, and then I can make little strips flat in my pepper. Now this doesn't have to be a fine dice. It can be medium. What I mean by that is some recipes call for a fine dice, but this one, it's just a pepper recipe, so you don't have to fine dice it, just medium dice it. Now I'm doing this dicing the way I am because I've been doing it for a long time, but if you can't do it, bunch it up. If you can't bunch it up and slice it because you might cut yourself, do whatever you can to cut up your peppers. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a fine dice. And then I'm going to use a top. See how tough that outer layer is of the skin? I've already got my hamburger, which is 1 pound of hamburger. Now, me, in the old days, before the shutdown, would have used my 2 pounds that I had in the freezer, but I am rationing right now. So I took my 2 pounds of frozen hamburger, thawed it out a little bit, and broke it in half, and then I gave me 2 1-pounders. I did put the other one back in the freezer. It doesn't hurt to refreeze it. It wasn't thawed all the way. And the only reason you might not want to use frozen hamburger is if you're making hamburgers, because all the water in there will make your hamburgers fall apart. Now this is my poblano. The reason we like poblanos is they have an earthy taste to them. They're not hot. And I'm cutting out the middle with my knife. I don't like touching them because my hands burn, but I usually put the gloves on, but my hands are too wet to put those on right now. There's a lot of liquid in there. And I'm just going to cut it in half. Again, cut the end, curly end off and start slicing. Use whatever you have. In other words, what if you don't have peppers, but you might have 2 cans of this diced chili in your cupboard? Use that. That's chopped pepper. It's not hot, it's mild. I use it in a lot of things. That's a staple in my pantry. And then I'm going to cut the end off of this, slice it again. Now this little bit of seeds won't hurt anything. And I'm going to wash my hands when I'm done cutting this, because I'll notice that my hands start burning later on, and heaven forbid I touch my eye or my nose or anything like that, because I will be having a burning issue. Cut them down. This is the top. Stem already came out. Just cut them up. Again, they don't have to be precise. Now I'm going to take you over to the skillet, which I already have my hamburger and onions. I had a half an onion. Now, it was a big onion, so I didn't need all that. I diced it up, I didn't need all that onion. So I put this remainder in a little baggie, put it in the freezer. Next time you need something that has onion, it's in there, just throw it in your dish. Okay, I'm going to take these over to the skillet. Okay, I started cooking my hamburger and onions on the stove, and I'm going to add my peppers. Now what I have here is a 90-10 hamburger, and it doesn't produce a lot of grease. I also am going to start boiling 2 cups of beef broth. Now the recipe calls for chicken broth, but I didn't have any. I had a half a carton of beef broth in my refrigerator that I needed to use up before it expired. So we're using beef broth today. If you don't have broth, use water. Now what we want to do is soften these peppers. Like I said, there's not a lot of oil in this hamburger, so I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil, only to bring the vegetables to where they can get soft. This will not make it greasy, trust me. Turn this on. I like to chop my hamburger small in my skillet with my handy dandy spatula. Whatever you use, you can use it just to chop up your meat. Like I say, I used a pound of hamburger that was in my freezer. You can use a pound of breakfast sausage in the tube, Jimmy Dean's or whatever you want to use, or you can use turkey meat, ground chicken meat, whatever you have in your freezer or refrigerator, or whatever you can snag at the store right now. Now I'm going to add some garlic to this. The original recipe didn't call for garlic, but the recipe was before everybody was crazy about garlic. So I'm just going to use jarred, because I like to have it conveniently on my shelf instead of chopping garlic. And you just mix that in there. You don't want it to cook too long because you don't want the garlic to burn. It'll get a bitter taste. Okay, I'll be back and I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, we're back. I want to show you how easy this recipe is. Now it calls for 1.5 cups of either spaghetti sauce or tomato sauce. And what I did to this is I always add herbs to my store-bought spaghetti sauce because it just adds a little bit freshener flavor. So what I have to do here is I already cooked my meat in this bowl, and I'm going to add the spaghetti sauce. And mix it up. Okay, now 1 cup of rice. Long grain rice, not minute rice, not instant rice. Use your long grain. Now I have jasmine here, but you could use basmati, whatever you have on hand. Keep in mind if you have brown rice, it's going to take a little bit more bake time. Or you could maybe want to parboil it to you soften it up a little bit, and then put it in the pan. Now you just put your rice over the bottom of your pan. Now, like I said, I have 2 cups of beef stock that I had in my refrigerator. Usually they ask for chicken stock, but use whatever you have in your pantry. Use the bouillon things to make your stock. And I've boiled it a little bit, turned it down, and you just dump this over top of the rice. To me, this is magic. Now, what I'm going to do is add my beef mixture over top of this. Spread it out over top as much as you can. Now my beef broth is gluten-free. Make sure you read your labels. Make sure you read your labels even on your spaghetti sauce. There may be something in there you can't have. Now most of your manufacturers are now telling you at the bottom contains wheat, contains milk, which is awesome. I have the cheese separate. When it comes out of the oven, my family that can have dairy puts it on top of their dinner and then maybe put it in the microwave for a minute and that melts the cheese. Okay, we're going to put this in the oven for 45 minutes at 350. Now, I learned a secret. If you don't have any tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce on your shelf, because it's really slim pickings right now, if you have a can of tomato paste, this is pure tomato. And what they do to it is they concentrate it down. What you would do is take a 6-ounce can of your paste, which you can get at the 99-cent store or dollar store, probably for 50 cents. And you would add 2 cans of warm water to it, whisk it in a bowl. You have tomato sauce. You have 1.5 cups of tomato sauce, which is what this recipe calls for. And remember, it's not seasoned. It has no salt in it, no herbs in it, no nothing. So you might want to season it to your taste. Now I'm going to put this in the oven for, like I say, 45 minutes at 350, and we'll be back when it's done. Wow, look how that came out. All the rice was absorbed into all the liquid was absorbed into the rice, and it baked up perfect. Now what I want to do is come in here and just mix it up. Because it's kind of dry on the top. And we just want to mix that in because it's nice and moist on the bottom. This will make a meal for 4 people. Or leftovers for 2, which that's all we are, is 2. And I will show you how it tastes in a second once it cools down a wee little bit. But I need to tell you that I really like you coming into my kitchen, and I would love you to subscribe and to click on the bell to where you get notifications of my next videos. And leave a comment in the comments. Let me know if there's a dish you want me to make gluten-free, if there's a question that you have, and if you don't want to comment on the page, send me an email at mynanasapron@gmail.com. Now let me see if this is cool enough that I can eat it. Looks and smells really good. It's almost like a spaghetti but with rice. The peppers are done really well. And the rice is not crunchy. Now mind you that I cooked this uncovered in the oven. And you didn't need to cover it because it might have come out where it had too much liquid left still in the dish. I hope you enjoy this recipe. Come back and see us next time. Bye.